It is my pleasure this morning to welcome two great singer-songwriters on their own and together, talking about James Mastro and Richard Barone with a new album from the Bongos coming out. It seems kind of weird to say that, but Richard, James, good morning and welcome
Good
to
morning.
WDHA and All Mixed Up.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Jim.
Richard, let me start with you. The album called Shroud of Turing, recorded about 40 years ago, Memorial Day weekend, 1985. I
Yep.
love the title of the album. Where did it come from?
That title came from Rob Norris, our bass player, who also named Drums Along the Hudson. He had great titles, usually some form of pun or wordplay. And he came up with that. And we had the title back then. Yes, it was almost exactly 40 years ago. And we had the title and basically the cover idea. Everything was ready to go. We just never put it out until now. It's this interesting phenomenon.
For
We're
listeners
lazy.
Yeah.
for listeners who are curious about, maybe the underlying the theme of there of the title, it refers sort of to the Shroud of Turin, which was
Yes.
the cloth that Christ was supposedly buried in.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I see that and I go, I love this title. James, and we were talking about this before we came on the air, listening to this album, and I like live albums, but as a general rule, you really had to be there. That is not the case with this album. The excitement and the energy just jumps out of the speakers when you listen to it.
It was definitely one of the most memorable shows I remember from that year. It was really hot,
Yeah.
Place was packed, a lot of friends there. And going back to the title, I think part of it may be inspired by we were just so sweaty. Like I think Rob like grabbed a towel, wiped his face, and probably
There's the,
saw his imprint on it. And that's kind of where it came from.
and it makes sense now because it's what remains from that tour and that show. It's the imprint of it. So
Yeah.
it really makes sense for us, you know. I think the title makes more sense now even than it would have then because now it's like that's the remains of that tour and of that performance, which was really I sweaty and Rob reminded me recently, that was one of our days off, and we decided to record the album. We booked that show just so could record this. Did you know that, Jim?
I
I
did
totally,
not.
Forgot about
I
that.
forgot about that too. But we did. We had a day off out of the many 300 something 300 shows, but we wanted to do a live album, and so we booked an extra show so we could record this, according to Rob. And I think maybe it's true. Uh, but it was cool because we had a big recording truck outside. This is before the days of recording on a laptop. We had to have a full recording studio truck, 24 track. So this was done on analog tape.
Why the delay in releasing the album? Just out of curiosity.
Well, there's so many reasons. We didn't really remain with RCA Records. We were going to switch labels too. And we had been recording things in the Bahamas with Chris Blackwell for Island, which that never even came to a contract because he was off on another project
Right.
before we even finished. He was doing Island Films and then sold it to Def Jam, the label. It became Island Def Jam. They merged. So really, that work was in limbo, and we just never put it out.
Yeah, we were focusing on writing, for the
Yeah.
next record. So
That's really true. We started writing and a lot, and we made, we had a lot of new songs. So this one just got put aside into the vault.
When was the last time you heard the album before the reissue of it? What was that?
Oh, well, with the Bongos, it's a community. We know we're friends, and I think Rob kept sending me. We had cassettes of it, of rough mixes, and we had been talking about maybe we'll put this out at some point. So we'd heard bits and pieces of it, but never the whole thing as a whole piece. Until now.
until now, yeah.
Yeah.
So
But we
when
we knew it was there. We knew it was there. We just it just now is the time to put it all together, I think.
I'm always amazed when an artist will wait to release an album. Susanna Hoffs, I think, just released an album within the last couple of weeks that sat for 30 years.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
The Smithereens, they up until I don't know a year and a half or so ago, they had a full album that they let sit, and Jimmy and Dennis came on with me at DHA, and I said, "What were you thinking, letting these tracks sit?" And as I'm listening to the Shroud of Touring, all I can think of is, and I mentioned this, you didn't have to be there to feel the excitement. It just jumps out of the speakers. This is one of those albums. I go, "What were they thinking, not releasing this right away?"
We don't know. But I will say that it to me it's I'm glad I'm really happy it's out because it's a missing piece of our what the bongo story is, because we made recordings that were pretty meticulously made in the studio. I mean, we would do, there's overdubbing and there's everything you can do in the recording studio, but the live show is where we just let loose.
They were chaos and carnival, it was really, and we always had great crowds, who
Yeah.
really egged us on. And so it was, and again, I think you feel it in the record, this give and take between the audience and us. And we always responded to how they responded, uh, and the record also has the addition of Steve Scales on percussion, who we borrowed from Talking Heads, and he was just another ingredient that added to the overall energy of it.
Yeah. It was the perfect time to record a live album for us, I think. And you're right about our audiences. I mean, other bands, I hate to say, would record our audiences to use in their live videos because we had such wild audiences. It's true. You could see Bongos t-shirts in a lot of people's videos.
Well, you did. I
And the
mean,
audiences, yeah.
you go back to those early days, that quote unquote Hoboken sound, where you guys were kind of the poster kids for it.
Yes. We were the poster kids because the Bongos were really the first band that played and the last band that played at Maxwell's. And we're very close with the owners, and we were definitely very entangled with the Hoboken pop scene from the beginning.
Yeah.
You've got three shows that are coming up. We mentioned the Wonder Bar, May 31st, and then there are two other dates, Bearsville Theater on the 30th, and then the Bitter End on June 1st. You've done reunion shows in the past. There's been some reissues. Something feels different this time, or is that just me? Just something is.
Yeah, something's different because it's a new album too. I mean, we're really excited to promote this because it's part of our catalog. I mean, this is part of our like a missing link in our catalog, really. This fills in a lot of our music for us that has not been heard. So we're very excited to go perform this as a piece, a live concert.
And usually when we get together, we'll do a one-off show. So having three in a row right now is like our little mini tour, and we're looking at some more stuff in the fall. So it's always good to get together and be able to spend time with these crazy guys.
Well, especially we do so many other things, but then we get together and it's like this magic sound that comes together. It gels easily and well, and always has. So it's fun. It's really fun for us.
Richard, there was an interview that you did recently for a tape op, and you mentioned being a little kid and listening to songs on the radio, and the sound of the
Yeah,
drums captivated you as a child. And I'm reading that and I'm going, well, what little kid listens to the drums? And then I'm thinking, well, wait a second. The first thing that I remember that really captivated me was the hand claps
yeah.
on At the Hop by Danny
Oh,
and the Juniors.
oh wow,
And
that's
I'm a
cool.
little
That's
kid at
cool.
this point, and
Yeah,
that's the thing. Even to this
percussion.
day,
Yeah.
I hear that song, and it's the hand claps.
It's interesting. Well, percussion, we can all make percussion.
Right.
And I was a kid, I was really intrigued by recording. That's why, like I was saying with the Bongos records, we would spend months in the studio getting sounds. All of us love recording. But getting that drum sound with the right amount of reverb on it, so it has a space and it has a vibe. That's magic to me. And like early records that I loved as a kid, even the Dave Clark Five and stuff, they just had the most amazing drum sounds. So yes, I love it.
And then I don't know if either of you have read Mike Campbell's book, Heartbreaker, but James, there is a part in the book where Mike talks about Stan Lynch during the recording sessions for Damn the Torpedoes.
Uh-huh.
And they're working with Jimmy Iovine. And Jimmy's big, fat, thick
Yeah.
drum sound. I felt so bad for Stan Lynch after reading that chapter in the book because it was just thump, 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 tune the drum, thump, thump, thump.
We did that
Oh,
too. We went through that too.
That was the age,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
the snare drum was king, Um, but we always tried to temper it with other percussion. We were
Right.
always adding more things. So and even live, Richard and I both had bongo sets on stage and,
Yeah.
and shakers, and we just have a good time with it. So the
Yeah.
rhythm is, it's what rock and roll is. It's really
Yeah.
what drives it, and so it's always appealing. banging a snare drum for 5 hours, not that much fun.
Right. We were doing banging a snare drum at a Power Station studio for the Beat Hotel album, which was the album just before this one in our the true chronology. And I remember that Frank was just here hitting the snare, and Mick Jagger came in. Do you remember that? Mick Jagger wandered in, and he's like just sitting there listening. I'm thinking he's listening to this, bang, bang. And that's all. But he just was because it was such a normal thing. Everybody was doing it, so he was just hanging out with us, sitting in the control room, and Frank is just banging a snare drum until we got it tuned just right. But yeah, we did that. We did that.
As someone who has been a fan of both of you with the band and solo, I'm just so excited about these three shows. And I've been playing the some tracks from the live album. And again, the listener reaction has been great.
Great.
There's an energy from the songs on the album, and there's an energy coming back from the reaction that I've got from listeners. And it's just so great that you guys are doing this these three shows, and hopefully more, as you said, and then the live album, which goes back to Memorial Day weekend of 1985. I remember where I was that weekend. Unfortunately, it was not at one of your shows. I think I was
we
playing with my
noticed
own
that
band
you weren't
at that
there.
point.
We did notice that you were not there. Yeah.
So
True.
it's May 31st at the Wonder Bar, and it's a great triple bill. The Cynz are opening up. I'm familiar with them. I've not seen them
Yeah,
live
they're
yet.
great. They're great.
The Gripweeds, who I have seen live, and I love them. Kurt and Kristen and the company, and then you guys at the Wonder Bar, and then two other shows, Bearsville Theater on May 30th, and the Bitter End on June 1st. So, Richard and James, thank you so much, and I'll see you at the show. I cannot wait.
You're
Great,
very
Jim.
welcome. Great to see you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.